Hello everyone, and welcome to our very first class in Careers in Photography. I'm really excited to get started with you today because we're going to dive into one of the most popular and accessible areas of photography, portrait photography. When people think about photographers, chances are they first imagine someone taking portraits, whether it's high school seniors, couples getting engaged, business professionals who need headshots, or even models on a runway. Portraits and the need for portraits are everywhere. And while it might seem straightforward at first glance, each of these subgenre of portrait photography come with its own style, skill set, equipment needs, challenges, and of course, business opportunities. Today I'm going to walk you through 6 key subgenres of portrait photography. Those are senior portraits, lifestyle portraits, engagement portraits, which we will be using as a proxy for wedding portraiture in this class, because it's hard for us to photograph weddings for class in an 8-week course, headshots, studio portraits, and fashion portraits. For each one, I'll explain what it involves, how you can get started, what kinds of equipment and skills may be useful, and even some do-it-yourself or budget-friendly options for those things, what the career outlook looks like, and how saturated the marketplace is, as well as an idea of how much you could expect if you're working full-time to earn in that space. That being said, I pull all of my data from a few different places. I grab it from the Department of Labor, as well as some websites like ZipRecruiter that put up averages as far as what people make. They're not necessarily region related, but I wanted to make sure that I had as much information as possible for you. So let's jump into it. The first one we're going to talk about is senior portraits. The senior portraits are one of the cornerstones of modern portrait photography. These are the portraits taken of high school seniors, usually in their final year before graduation. They're often seen as a rite of passage and something that parents and students really value. So what does senior photography entail? So when you talk about senior photography portraits, it tends to balance between two sides. On one hand, there's a more traditional, formal portrait, often taken for the yearbook. On the other hand, there's the creative, personalized session that showcases the senior's personality, their hobbies, or future aspirations. You'll see shoots that feature a senior in sports uniform sometimes, holding an instrument, or pose at a favorite local spot. So how do you get started in this? Getting started in senior photography can be as simple as photographing friends or family. Many photographers start by word of mouth as well. One happy parent recommends you to another, and that one recommends you to another, and so on. Schools sometimes have contracts with large companies, but for yearbook photos, families often hire local photographers for the personalized sessions. Building a portfolio of a few great sessions and showcasing them on Instagram or a personal website can go a long way in this market. So the skills and equipment that you'll need. So with most of these upcoming genres, you're going to need either a DSLR or a mirrorless camera with a standard portrait lens. That being about a 50mm or 85mm would be perfect. Don't be afraid to use what you have though. I first started with an 18-200 f4 to 6.3 lens, also known as an all-in-one lens. They can be very limiting with what you can do regarding lower light or depth of field, but they still get the job done. Lighting is key. Many sessions use natural light, so learning to shoot ambient light, and especially during golden hour, is invaluable. A simple reflector that you can use to bounce light can also help balance shadows without requiring big or expensive equipment. For budget-friendly options, a 50mm Nifty 50, as they're usually called, a lens on an entry-level camera can produce professional quality results. These typically can open up to 1.8 for their f-stop and can be used for images where you want a shallow depth of field and where your subject can be the main focus and the star of your image. Earnings. Full-time senior portrait photographers can earn anywhere between $40,000 and $75,000 a year, depending on their market and pricing. Many photographers charge anywhere from $200 to $800 per session, plus additional fees for prints or digital collections. As far as how the market is with this, the market is highly competitive, especially in suburban areas where many photographers offer senior sessions. But one great thing about senior portraits is that they're also known as a renewable market, which means every year, every class graduates, and the new class comes along right behind them to be the new seniors. The challenge is standing out with style, experience, and/or unique packages. The second of the subgenres we'll be talking about today is lifestyle portraits. Now, lifestyle portraits are a growing trend. The actual term lifestyle photography is sort of a newer branding of some of the more traditional natural light portraiture that's used to tell a story, and it's not necessarily a static, unexciting pose that you see in traditional studio portraiture. And these aren't stiff posed photographs. They're meant to capture people in natural, real-life settings. Think of like families baking cookies together, or a couple walking their dog, or kids playing in the backyard. Those kinds of photos. So what lifestyle photography entails is all about the storytelling. Instead of asking people to smile at the camera or say cheese, you want to ask them to simply play, interact, or be themselves. These photos are often used for family albums, social media, or even small business branding. It has become very popular to use images like this to promote one's own business, and many clients are asking for these types of images in lieu of the more typical headshot. One thing that I do run into when I shoot lifestyle portraiture myself is people are always asking, what am I supposed to do? Tell me what to do. I try to make it clear to them that they need to actually just interact with each other, start talking to each other. Sometimes if I'm doing like an engagement session that's more along the lines of these lifestyle type portraits, I'll tell them to like whisper something in each other's ear and trying to get those actual reactions. It's not quite candid photography because they know they're being photographed, but you want them to be outside of themselves and not thinking about angles or if they're smiling or not smiling, and instead just being themselves. How to get started in this? So lifestyle portraiture is easy to start because it can be done with people you already know. If I were you to offer photographs to family or friends in your community and practice capturing authentic moments. Because the look is natural, you don't need as much equipment to make it work. So the skills and equipment that you do need, again, DSLR or mirrorless cameras are the de facto camera to use in these, but some boutique or specialty photographers market and use film cameras instead of or in addition to the digital options, and the look and the feel of vintage is the end result. You may want to use a camera with a versatile lens, like maybe a 24 to 70 millimeter 2.8, which is a great lens for adjusting quickly in changing situations. Now, natural and ambient light is common in these types of photographs, so knowing how to work with available light is critical. You'll also need a strong ability to communicate well, very strong communication skills. You have to help people feel relaxed so the images don't feel staged. Like I said before, it's very hard because a lot of the clients, they don't feel comfortable in front of the camera. So part of it is actually making them feel comfortable and trying to get a rapport with them so they're not so much worried about the camera being pointed at them. This field is moderately saturated, but demand is strong because families are always looking for authentic modern portraits. Many people prefer the lifestyle sessions over stiff studio shots, which gives this niche steady growth. Engagement photography is a classic category and often an entry point into wedding photography. Couples hire photographers to capture portraits after they get engaged, often for save the date cards or wedding websites. So these sessions tend to be romantic and creative, sometimes staged in a meaningful location, like where they proposed, or simply at a scenic outdoor spot. Many photographers begin by offering engagement sessions to friends. Some also bundle engagement sessions with wedding packages, making it a natural add-on. Networking in the wedding industry with planners, venues, or florists can help you land clients. So the skills and equipment for this, again, DSLR or mirrorless cameras come in clutch, but you could use a combo of digital and film for the stylistic nature. You could even use just a film camera, but I would not recommend it. That would definitely be for those with a more adventurous spirit. Shooting digitally, you can always check to see if you have the shot, whereas with a film camera, you really have to trust the process. Mirrorless cameras work well because of their strong low light performance and are useful because shoots often happen around sunset or in changing lighting situations. However, high-end photographers have been offering analog photography in addition to their packages, where images will be shot on film as well as on a digital camera. And these add-ons typically cost a couple $100 or even thousands more. You will definitely need fast lenses. Some photographers prefer prime lenses, like a fixed 50, the nifty 50 or a 35 that can shoot 1.4 or 1.8, or a 35 or an 85 millimeter, 85 millimeter that can shoot f1.4. They're great for shallow depth of field and very romantic looks, but don't shy away from using other lenses like a 24-70 2.8. Having a trusty telephoto or zoom lens like a 70-200 f2.8 lets you have full coverage, be it wide angle or up close. For me, I always use a wide lens, and then I have a second camera where I have my zoom, and I keep them strapped. I have a harness that I wear where one side is my zoom lens or my telephoto lens, and the other one that I have is my 16 to 35, or I used to use just a 24 to 70, but I started wanting to shoot a little wider. So if you have the ability to have two cameras, I highly suggest it. But I've seen very successful photographers doing weddings just with one camera, and they're just really fast at changing lenses. And posing skills are very, very important here, because even though you could easily photograph engagement portraits in more of a lifestyle type look, not all couples feel comfortable in front of the camera, and they may need direction for the more traditional engagement kind of portraits that they want. So now earnings for the engagement sessions typically run between $250 and $1,000, depending again on the market. If tied to wedding packages, they can be worth much more. Full-time wedding photographers and that do engagements as well often earn between $50,000 and $100,000 annually, or even more. But keep in mind the work is very seasonal, so you end up missing a lot of your summers, a lot of your weekends, and then during the week, during the summer, it's edit, edit, edit. The market saturation, the market for this is very, very competitive, especially in urban areas. Many wedding photographers bundle engagement shoots, so standing out might require unique locations, storytelling styles, or personalized touches. One thing about the engagement photos is that it can tie into your style if you do weddings. And like I mentioned before, it's a great entryway into weddings. If you want to start working with couples and doing these more romantic type sessions, you can totally do that and not have the and sort of jumping in too quickly as you would do just booking a wedding and sort of just letting it rip. So I suggest starting off with engagements, and if people ask you from that, if you'd be interested in shooting a wedding as well, definitely let them know I'm starting out and doing it, and also price accordingly to that. Of course, you want to keep expectations where they should be, but it's a great way to start off into weddings. Now we talk about commercial headshots. Commercial headshots are one of the most reliable and repeatable forms of portrait photography. These are professional portraits that are used for things like business cards, LinkedIn profiles, company websites, or corporate branding. So headshots are usually simple, clean, and professional. They can be done in a studio with a neutral background or on location, even at an office. Some photographers even offer mobile headshot services, bringing a backdrop and lights to businesses. Now, to get started in this is one of the more easier portrait markets to enter because businesses consistently need updated headshots. Networking with local professionals, offering discounted headshots to small businesses, and offering bulk or reduced pricing for volume shooting, even running mini sessions are great ways to start. So with the skills and equipment, DSLR or mirrorless camera, and a lens that maybe has a longer focal length, like a 70 to 200 or an 85 millimeter. You want to do that because when you photograph the headshots, you want the compression so that everything is nice and in focus. Controlled lighting is important too. Even a basic 1 or 2 light setup paired with a reflector can create polished results. And you don't need a strobe necessarily to do this. You could get a constant light. You can get a set of constant fluorescent lights that are daylight balanced. And just 2 of those would just be perfect for doing this in like a small office or a small space. For budget setups, a single softbox or using even natural window light against a plain wall can totally work. Headshots can vary depending on photographer. So what I was seeing was between $100 to $400 per person. The $400 would be a full session of more than just one headshot. But I know photographers in the past that will do this for as much as $50 per person if they have at least 4 people. That way it's worth their time to actually go set up their equipment and photograph. And as far as the saturation from the market, headshot photography is moderately saturated, but there is a consistent demand because businesses are always hiring new employees. They also want updated pictures, sometimes annually, and so that works out in our favor as well. The market rewards photographers who are reliable, efficient, and professional. So remember that. If you promise that you're going to have the pictures in at a certain time, do that. You want to under promise and over deliver. I want to make sure I didn't say that incorrectly. You want to under promise, say, yeah, they'll be in within a week or 2 weeks, and over deliver. If they're in there like less than 5 days, your client's happy, you're done and taken care of, and then that will be more likely to have you have repeat business with them. So in the past, there were many large corporations who specialized in photography, usually based in malls or like shopping centers like the JCPenney Portrait Studio, which, by the way, is also owned by Shutterfly LifeTouch. They were purchased in 1983 from JCPenney, and LifeTouch ran that. And then Shutterfly in 2008 purchased LifeTouch. Okay, but there are other ones like Olin Mills, The Picture People, Glamour Shots, and even the Sears Portrait Studio. These were favored, well, not Glamour Shots, but the other ones were favored by families for things like baby pictures, family photos, and the yearly ubiquitous Christmas card photograph. And it's because of the convenience and because they're relatively cheaper compared to an independent photographer. Many, like the mall-based studios, would run specials and sit sessions and or prints. So they would get people in and say, hey, come in, you can photograph for free, or your 8x10s will be $9. That's hard for an independent photographer to try to compete with. Along with a competent sales staff, it's usually the photographer themselves, although some of those models had a photographer doing the shooting and then somebody else that specialized in the sales. Whichever way it was, photographers are typically hourly and again seasonal, with the full-time employees either being management, who ends up having to photograph, or a proven solid shooter who can make images needed but also is great at sales. Owning your own site-based studio is another thing altogether. If you have your own studio, you get to set the rules yourself. Things like the amount of appointments you set per day, the variation of lighting and quality of your images, the time you spend working with people, and your choice of sales. Many photographers now don't even offer any kind of print sales. They really push towards digital images, so they sell those images to the client, and the client then makes their own prints. Or they'll do a combination of print sales and purchasing the digital images for the clients to own and use their own prints later on. Most corporations do not do this. But there are many pitfalls to owning a site-based studio. Overhead can make or break you. Things like monthly lease for the space, insurance for not just the business, but also your equipment, marketing of your services, utilities, and just marketing, trying to get people in the door can be so hard. Many former studio-only photographers have had to pivot, moving out of doors for their shoots as well as keeping a studio, which actually is pretty amazing, not only for when the weather gets bad, but also it lends a place to meet with clients and sell the products to them. And with the upgrades in technology and the cost dropping for things like battery-powered strobes, speed lights, and the ability to shoot untethered to your lighting, it has really allowed photographers who were previously studio-based to move their studios outside. Many photographers now, myself included, shoot studio-like images using professional lighting without needing a permanent studio based in a building. Skills and equipment, say it with me, DSLR or mirrorless. You need cameras in good working condition as well. Studio strobes and modifiers are pretty standard, and in a corporate setting, they tend to keep the lights generally in the same spot to speed up the photo shoots. As an independent owner, you have a lot more leeway with your lighting and offerings. In studio photography, where you work for your own or work for an independent photographer, customer service also is a must. You need to be able to not only connect with your clients, but also be a salesperson, because at the end of the day, if you're selling prints, you want them to purchase as many as possible. So earnings on this can be very hard to establish, but people who have studios and that are established studio photographers that own their own studio can make from $40,000 to $60,000 or more. With market saturation, it is very, very, very competitive. And that's because the availability of affordable prosumer cameras and the ability for people to go and buy a really nice camera that does a lot of the work for them has made it accessible for people to be able to get out there. Whereas before there was sort of a, not gatekeeping, but there was a knowledge amount that you would have to do to actually participate in this. And the last one we'll cover under portraiture is fashion portraits. Fashion portraiture is one of the most glamorous and recognizable types of portrait photography. I myself love doing fashion photography. I used to do it in college for fun, grab my friends, have them put on beautiful dresses and go run around downtown and do lots of fashion inspired shoots. Now, these are the types of images that you see in magazines, advertisements, and social media campaigns. So what entails fashion photography and fashion portraits is that you focus on clothing, style, and trends. They may be shot in studios, in urban locations, outside, outdoors in an outdoor studio, or even elaborate sets. Unlike lifestyle or senior portraits, fashion work often has a clear artistic direction, sometimes set by a brand or a creative director. How do you get started in this? So breaking into fashion often means building a portfolio with local models or designers and collaborating with stylists. Many photographers start by doing test shoots with aspiring models who need portfolio images. The old trade for print, although now it's trade for digital image. Sharing work on social media and reaching out to local boutiques or designers can definitely open doors for you. What's important though is to build a portfolio of these images. So skills and equipment. Studio lighting skills are almost a must. With portrait photography, they want a certain look and style, and typically the ambient light look or the available light look isn't necessarily what they're going for. Having an assortment of lenses, like ultra-wide, a wide, a zoom lens, or even a telephoto, it helps you when collaborating with an art director to be able to offer different looks and effects and to help bring the client's vision to life. There is also a lot of do-it-yourself options. Being able to shoot with available light or ambient light may serve for clients who want a more natural look, but you need to have those lighting abilities, being able to shoot with strobes or even speed lights. That being said, you can experiment with things like window light or creative outdoor locations if you don't have access to a studio. Now, fashion photographers' income, it varies widely. Local level work might bring in $30,000 to $60,000 annually, while those working with major brands or publications can earn six figures or more. Keeping in mind, though, that places like Sacramento, they're not really the cultural fashion hubs of the world. You'd be looking at places like San Francisco, Los Angeles, New York, places where fashion really rules. And market saturation. This field is extremely competitive, especially in major cities. The success depends on heavily networking, your style, and your visibility. That said, with social media, even independent photographers can gain recognition today. Social media is such an important part if you're going to do fashion photography by building a brand and a style and a following. So, those are the 6 major areas within our portrait photography that we're going to be focusing on for those subgenres. Each one has its own character, its own market, and its own challenges. As you think about your future career in photography, I encourage you to ask yourself which of these areas feels most exciting to you. Are you drawn to the creative storytelling of the lifestyle photography, the steady business of headshots, the glamour of fashion, or maybe you want to mix a few together? In our next class, we'll move on to another area of photography. We're going to be talking about artistic photography or fine art photography. And we will be continuing to explore the wide variety of careers that these fields have to offer. So thanks for watching today, and I'll see you next lesson.